Joining us now for more is CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, you heard what Congressman Issa had to say. What is the White House saying in response?
Well, what they're saying via the White House counsel's office is that as soon as these classified documents were discovered, that the effort to pack up this office stopped immediately, that the National Archives were alerted after the White House counsel's office was alerted, and that they essentially did the right thing in their view, which was to let the National Archives know that these classified documents, somewhere in the realm of about 10 documents or so, were there. They probably weren't supposed to be there. And then the National Archives, in turn, went ahead and alerted the Justice Department. So the White House counsel's office is essentially arguing that they did this by the book. Now, there are still obviously many questions that we've asked the White House that we haven't gotten an answer to, including what did these documents show? What was their classification? Are we talking about confidential documents? Are we talking about top secret? What did these documents pertain to? Essentially, how radioactive is this? And then beyond that, why is the public only finding out about it now, a couple of months after it happened?
Yeah.
And all of that, Nancy, seems to suggest the president has a problem on his hands now. President Biden's on record saying that the presence of materials marked classified at Mar-a-Lago were, quote, irresponsible. That was a main narrative of Democrats in general at the end of last summer. And you just heard Darrell Issa there say, we need to investigate this. We need to look into it. And you pose some unanswered questions that we still have at CBS News right now. How will this or might this hurt President Biden as he considers his second term?
Well, there's the political issue, and then there's the Justice Department issue, and let's separate those for a second. I mean, first of all, I think there's no question, based especially on what you heard there from Darrell Issa and what we've heard from members of the House Oversight Committee, that this is going to be something that they're going to want to investigate themselves. They're going to want to find out more. They're going to want to keep this in the spotlight, especially because they've had so many questions about the way that the Trump classified documents have been handled. When it comes to any potential Justice Department or legal problem for the President of the United States, I think we just have to wait and see. It is not, in and of itself, a crime or something that would draw a lengthy criminal investigation when you have possession of classified documents outside of a designated government area. It's against the statute, but as we saw in the case of Hillary Clinton, for example, who ended up having classified documents in thousands of emails that she had kept after her time as Secretary of State on her private server, at the end of the day, what the FBI determined was that it was really sloppiness that was to blame, and that there wasn't some kind of intentional desire to hold on to secret information. So that's a very important distinction. In this case, I think you can't argue that it appears that the documents were turned over as soon as they were discovered. So the question is going to be what happened in the years between the time that they were moved from then Vice President Biden's office at the White House to the Penn Biden Center, and again, what was in those documents.
Yeah, still a lot of questions. I imagine that's going to be a major focus as you anchor Red and Blue today. Tell us what all you have cooking.
That's right. So we will be talking about all of that. We'll be speaking with James Comer of Kentucky. He is the new Republican chair of the House Oversight Committee. So, he's already on record saying that he thinks that there's a two-tiered system here, a difference in the way that the Trump documents were handled and how this situation is being handled. So we'll talk to him more about that. The president himself has not weighed in on the issue yet. We'll see if he does. He's in Mexico today, meeting with the leaders of Mexico and Canada, and they are set to hold a press conference this afternoon. So we'll be on top of that and, of course, bring you all the rest of the day's political news.
All right, a nice busy evening brewing for the Red and Blue team. Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And a quick reminder, you can stream Red and Blue on CBS News Mondays to Thursdays at 5, 6, and 9 p.m. Eastern.